So today we covered the importance of exercise throughout the cancer pathway, and that can be either from diagnosis, throughout treatment, and kind of into the recovery phase, but also it's valuable even if you're still living with a cancer diagnosis. So we talked about the benefits, the importance, generally trying to build up your activity levels so that you build consistency and frequency. We looked at working around side effects and consequences from treatment, and there were many questions, obviously from an individual basis, about different things, different problems people were living with. We talked about creative strategies in how to incorporate more exercise into people's lives, and that it can sometimes just be 5 minutes here and there, whether you're stretching, whether you're trying to build a bit of strength, whether you're going out for a walk. So it doesn't need to be something that feels really inaccessible or too much. We talked about some research, some of the evidence that's out there, and just how important it is to move our bodies, not just in terms of anti-cancer, but also in terms of building that inner terrain, building that resilience, that kind of layer of protection inside, making our heart strong, our lungs healthy and strong, increasing our bone mineral density, increasing our muscle mass, increasing our brain capacity. And obviously we looked at physical implications, the good bits that can help us physiologically, but also how important it is on a psychosocial level as well. So increasing mood and increasing your ability to sleep, lowering anxiety, increasing, lowering depression, because we all know that when we exercise, we feel better. We have endorphins and it helps us to release those. So, and then I think, what do we do? Well, then I got everybody moving. Everybody did some exercise, but really it was just looking at the benefits and working around whatever side effects or disease that people may have, so that it's safe and that it's dosed according to what anybody's limitations may be or problems they may have. So again, it's a medicine. For me, exercise is a medicine, a really valuable one, a really important one, and it's like any other medicine. You have to dose it according to you. So one size does not fit all, and it has to be tailored to each individual for the greatest benefits. Yeah, I mean, I think probably if people have really not ever done any exercise before or any kind of structured exercise before, I think the best thing that you can do is start walking. All right, it's free, it's accessible. You might just begin by doing a loop around your garden or a loop around your lounge, and then you just build up. You build up, so you might start with 5 minutes, you might start with 3 minutes. You might actually be okay to go out and do 10 or 15 minutes. So you start low and you build up slow, depending where you are in that trajectory, whether you are right in the middle of treatment, you may even be beginning pre-treatment. So if you can start exercising even before your treatment begins, that's brilliant. That can put you in a really great position to be able to tolerate the treatment and get through the treatment. But it doesn't matter, even if you're just starting after your treatment, you have to start now, and that might be very slow, very low. But walking, I think, is a great thing because it's a functional thing that we all do day in, day out. So I would say that's probably the best thing to get started with. If you really don't know where to start, if you don't know where to begin, just begin by building consistency and frequency by going out and walking every day. And write it down, make a note of what you're doing every day, how far you're going, how you feel, whether you're walking slowly, whether you're walking with a better pace, a bit more briskly. So keeping a note of what you're doing so you can track from week to week your progress. I think, I really do believe in this. I think it's super important that we do try to mix it, because the guidelines are try and do something, 3-5 times a week, 30 minutes a day, that's aerobic. So we get that kind of heart and lung strengthening activity, that aerobic exercise where you're feeling hopefully a bit puffed, a bit out of breath and a little bit sweaty, and you're actually really having to get your heart and lungs to work better. We need to try and do something to strengthen our muscles, all right? So again, trying to exert some force against the muscles by doing some kind of resistance training. So then you're building the muscle, all right? So you're working your aerobic, your heart and lungs, then you're building muscle. I also really believe that we need to introduce balance, and we need to introduce flexibility, so stretching as well, because I just think, you know, really if we want a kind of healthy body, a whole healthy body, all those things need to be addressed. You might find, I mean, people often tend to lean towards one discipline more than another. So sometimes, you know, you might think, oh, I just love to cycle all the time, which is great. Don't stop doing that. Try to stretch a little bit. All right. Try to add in a few simple exercises to try and help strengthen maybe the upper body as well. So breathing exercises, wonderful. But I think on top of the breathing exercises, it's important to, again, move the body, to really functionally move the body. And if we try to stretch and we try to breathe properly and we try to build muscle, then the body will feel generally just so much stronger as a whole. All right, it feels a lot. I think sometimes people say, how can I do all this? How can I find the time to do all of this? But you don't need to do too much. Sometimes it's just a little bit here and a little bit there. But I do think a kind of holistic approach towards exercise is quite important. Particularly, I think if you're going through treatment, because there'll be times in treatment when you won't have the energy to perhaps go out and ride a bike or swim or go for that long walk. So you would intersperse the high fatigue days or the low energy days with more restorative practice. So breathing or stretching, light stretching, or some gentle balance work. And then you're kind of addressing each kind of mode of exercise, which I think is very important. So you're getting all those components of fitness as well. Yeah, so many. So I talked briefly at the end of my session about a young woman that I've been working with for a while who's gone in this week for her second stem cell transplant. And the first one, she was expected to stay in for several weeks because obviously she was going to become very immunocompromised and at risk of infection. And after 3 weeks, they scratched their heads and sent her home because she was very fit going into treatment. She worked very hard. And during her stay, when she had to stay in after the stem cell transplant, she did lots of restorative work. So she walked every day. She did lots of stretching. She did gentle strengthening from her room, exercises that I had prescribed, and we worked together. And she's doing amazingly now. She's first week in of her second and doing brilliantly. I sometimes do a lot of focused breath work with people, and this has been really amazing for people who are very anxious going in for scans and appointments and treatment schedules. So sometimes even just teaching patients or teaching individuals how to calm their breath and actually really connect with their breathing can really help to lower anxiety. And I've had lots of my patients turn around and say, God, I got through that scan because I did all those techniques and I was doing the work before I went in and I did it during as well. So sometimes even just those little measures can be amazing. I've had people, I worked with a young girl last year who was diagnosed with bowel cancer and then went on to have a stoma, and she had various other very serious complications along the way, and she is now a triathlete. And she did all that within 6 months. She was extraordinary. And she has developed an incredible love of and passion for open water swimming. And I think she's swimming 5K this weekend down a river somewhere. And she is just hugely inspiring. And I've watched her come a long way. And this is a girl living with a permanent stoma who doesn't think twice about jumping into the water, peeling her wetsuit off, jumping onto her bike and then running. And she's, extraordinary. So it's been a real journey to see her go from... but then equally, I will work with people who were doing nothing, and they now do a little half-hour routine every morning. They do their walk, they do a few strength exercises, a few balance, and they do it every day. And so they've gone from doing nothing to doing something, and they feel stronger and they feel a bit more in control of their bodies and just generally feel healthier, feel well. So it doesn't need to be a kind of galloping down mountains and swimming through rivers. Sometimes it can just be a small routine that means that you're functionally stronger and feeling fitter, and that gives you resilience and that gives you that protective layer as well. It's a difficult question, that, because everyone's so different. And I think it's very much determined by each individual and what their health needs are and what their concerns are, and perhaps what their limitations might be, and what particularly what things might be going on, maybe if they've got any consequences from treatment. So I think you just have to seek advice. Certainly, if you're worried and concerned because you've got a number of health concerns, always seek advice, either from your medical team or from someone like myself, just to maybe help you get going. But I would never turn around and say don't do anything. I think you just have to customise it and modify it to kind of what's happening with your body, and certainly with your mind as well, because they have to be working together when we're exercising. Otherwise, you can you can injure yourself as well. So I think always start slowly, always start low, and then build up, and then you reduce the risk of injuring yourself, pushing yourself too far, and also it's a good way of being able to determine how you feel after each session. So those are probably my kind of like important points, that you don't just suddenly jump into something that you haven't done for a while, and particularly if you haven't exercised for a while, it's really important. So I think that's probably, yeah, and if in any doubt, always seek advice, absolutely. My mantra tends to be move more often. All right, so we all are very, very sedentary these days, myself included. Some of my weeks at work, I don't move a great deal. And we are plagued by technology now, so we do sit ever such a lot. So try to move more consistently, with more frequency. So even if you go out in the morning perhaps and do your nice brisk walk for half an hour, great. But then if you then sit for the next 10 hours, that's not so great. So take advantage of opportunities to just get up and move around a bit more. So if you're quite desk bound with your job, or even at home when we get a little bit caught up and we tap away at the computer and 2 hours go by, just put timers, alerts on your phone so that you are moving more often. If you see a flight of stairs, take them. Seize opportunities to just get the body moving and stretching in various different ways. If you want to get in contact with me, you can contact me via my website. So that's canexercise.co.uk. And my email is there. You can either email me, or my number is also there and you can call me. The key messages are exercise can be transformative for the mind and for the body. And that was a word given to me by an amazing patient that I spent time with at home yesterday with, and he said to me, this is transformative for me. And he's very weak and he's got a long way to go, but he will get there because he was incredibly fit before his treatment. But it was just a brilliant word to hear, that it can be so transformative and on many different levels for people. So it might just be that for him it's transformative because at the moment he's able to get out of bed now and walk downstairs and play with his kids and then come back up to bed. So that was transformative for him. For others it might be jumping into a lake and swimming for 3 kilometres. So the transformative applies to each individual, no matter how big or how small that change might be.